This one strategy allowed me to be able to bring in over 3 times more clients without having to be on social media all the time. So it allowed us to be able to get over 588 clients and be able to continue to grow without the drag of, oh, I have to come up with content and that my social media isn't working for me. There's 3 big ideas we're going to focus on today. Number 1 is the easy way to get clients without having to go viral. Number 2 is how I got booked without cold DMs. And number 3 is how to make an extra 10K a month in your spare time. So the very first one we're going to focus on is this appointment pipeline. This is our overall framework. Inside of here, there is these 4 main steps. This is how I help all of our clients be able to generate income. And I came up with this framework because there was a point in time where I was just trying to figure out, like, how do I get clients? Like what am I doing? I was doing a bunch of random things all day, and it wasn't allowing me to be able to grow. And I struggled for 5 years to try to generate revenue when I first came into this industry in 2015. And I said, okay, I got to figure this out. So I started going to all of the programs, started joining the masterminds, and I started noticing what all of the most successful coaches in our industry did. So I put together this process, and I said, okay, if there's something that I see everybody's doing, then it has to work because this is what works. So I came up with a process that we call the appointment pipeline, and that is what we're going to be focused on today. So let's go through the very first one. First thing you have to get is, all right, we're going to keep it very simple. First thing you got to get is traffic. Okay. Now, with traffic, here's the important thing is if you can't get yourself to generate traffic, meaning it's not outside traffic like cars, but get attention, get eyeballs, get people looking at what you have. If you can't get people to pay attention to you, then it's going to be harder for you to be able to grow. If you could get more people attention to you, some of those people will be interested. That's just what the bottom line is. But most people just aren't doing the right things to get what they need to get. But if they did, they would make more money. So I remember that I didn't know where to start. So I would be doing all of these random activities. And I said, you know what? All right, let me go to a couple little bit of networking events and let me post a little bit of content and, let me do a little bit of messaging online and try to get some referrals. And I was just all over the place trying to do things. And I realized that that doesn't work, right? Like I'm trying to go because the idea behind traffic is you always need to be getting new eyeballs on what you have. You got to be getting people to pay attention to you. Have you ever found yourself waking up and you're like, wow, I don't even like know what to do today? You ever found yourself saying that, right? And so that's because you don't have a traffic strategy. You don't have a specific way that you're going to get attention. And if you don't have that, then it's going to make it hard for you to even find enough people to want to be interested in it. Right. So that was one of the things I said, okay, I got to get on a pursuit to figure out, okay, well, where am I going to get new people from? Because you can go anywhere to get a lot of people, but what are you going to really do? So I had a conversation with one of our clients. I don't know, maybe I don't know. This maybe like a year ago, and one of the things she was telling me is like, okay, I'm not making the type of money I want to make. So I said, okay, well, like tell me what you're doing. And it's so funny how like deja vu, she was saying some of the same things I was saying, like, oh yeah, a little bit of networking, a little bit of referrals. When I go out, I meet people and she was telling me a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And I said, stop. I said, this sounds familiar to my story. Let me ask you this question. What strategy are you applying? And she said, well, I'm just kind of doing a little bit. I said, wait, tell me the exact strategy you're applying right now to get traffic and new people. She said, I don't have one. I said, there you go. I said, there is no system to get new people, to get in front of new people, which is the idea behind traffic. So that's the goal. Now, there's a lot of different ways you could get traffic. We like paid advertising because that gives us an easy way where you can still continue to live your life, not have to be posting all the time to try to get attention and try to hurry up and hustle, get some likes. But but people are being attracted to you. People are coming to you in order to get the help. I remember me doing network marketing when I was on campus, and I was doing a company called Legal Shield. Shout out to everybody who went through prepaid Legal Shield, right? Which is a multi-level marketing company. And we had to go on campus and, yo, hey, you looking to make some extra money? You looking to make some extra money? And I would be going and doing all these, you know, basically going after people, almost chasing them down. And I didn't really like the feeling because I'm like, oh my God, they're like, oh, here's Terrell coming, let me hurry up and let me go, like they would try to avoid me, and I'm like, man, that was a good feeling. I mean, some of these people, were my friends, people was just like, okay, I know he's doing this thing, I don't want him to talk to me about that, and I remember thinking to myself at that time, this was before I started getting into business, our own business. I'm like, man, it got to be a better way than this. So that's when years later, I got into business, struggled trying to just do everything under the sun. We were able to figure it out, be able to start generating a six-figure business, start helping other clients do the same thing. And so once I walked her through, okay, this is what we need to do to actually get in front of the right people. Boom, next thing you know, she has a $28,000 a month. And the only thing we did is we helped her get a reliable traffic source. Okay. So that's the idea behind it. So one of my favorite quotes is what I love is from Dan Kennedy. He said, you can have the best product in the world, but if nobody knows about it, you'll go broke. So don't listen to that. Don't listen to that in your head. That's saying don't spend the money, try all of these organic strategies. Those things could help, but at the end of the day, your brain is trying to trick you. You want to be able to, because you're afraid to spend money, because a lot of us didn't grow up with money. So it's hard to let go of it. But when you do that, and let's say you run an ads, that gives you the ability to bring people to you. And there's a difference between inbound and outbound, right? Outbound is going out, having to send the cold DMs, going out, having to, you post the content and then you're trying to, message people. That's you going to networking events and trying to get people interested, hitting the streets, doing cold calls. These are the things where you're going outbound. The best is inbound because people have the intentions already, which is what you want. They have intentions of solving a problem that you can solve. And that's why I love ads so much, because when you run, let's say, like Facebook ads or Instagram ads on these platforms, then this gives you the ability to talk to people that are already interested in solving the problem you can solve. So that's the best thing. So that's the very first thing we look at when it comes to getting clients and generating revenue. Is like you have to have one reliable traffic source. Whatever you choose, one reliable. We like ads. There's other things you could do, but the ads is going to be the best way. You know what I mean? Every other method is going to be kind of hard. Like if you're doing speaking engagements, that's kind of tough because you have to go out 5 days a week. You know what I'm saying? If you want to get a bunch of traffic through webinars, then guess what? You got to get a bunch of people on the webinars. How are you going to do that? Right? You're going to message a bunch of people. Could work, but it's still going to come back to running ads to get people on it, right? So that's the best and that's the easiest way with people with intention. So that's the first thing we got to focus on to be able to grow your business, start getting clients and making money. Second thing we want to focus on is now that you're getting the traffic, right? You're getting people that are interested through ads. They're clicking on your ad. Next thing they're going to do is they're going to become a lead, right? So second thing you need as part of the pipeline is leads. Leads, simple definition, is somebody that you can contact. That's really all a lead is. I like the type of leads where you have their email and you have their phone number. To me, those are the best leads because when you have that, then that gives you the ability to contact them. And when you speak to somebody, your conversions are always going to go higher because they can hear your emotion, they can hear your voice. Like it's just going to be a lot better when you're able to get those type of leads. When I first started learning, I said, and running these ads, and I'm like, okay, so I'm running the ads, I'm getting these leads, but I didn't really know about the phone number thing. So I was doing a first mistake I made was I was boosting, which is what a lot of us do. We boost these posts. And I'm like, yeah, I'm getting more people to see it. Yes, I'm getting 5,000 views, 10,000 views. Yes, oh my God, I'm loving it. I'm like, but I'm still not getting anybody hitting me up to like be a client. So like, what's going on? So then from there, I ended up getting working with a marketing agency, an advertising agency, and that was good. And originally I was just getting emails, and that was cool because I was building my email list, but I still wasn't really getting, getting people that were interested in terms of actually wanting to work with me. And it wasn't until I started collecting phone numbers out just through programs and coaches I was learning from. They're like, "Oh yeah, you should be getting phone numbers too." I'm like, "Oh yeah, really?" So then I started adding the phone number as part of the form. So when you're running ads, you need to get the phone number. Like if you don't, like, have you ever found yourself in a place where it's like, okay, you okay, now I'm think I have some people that I can talk to. I think I can have some people that's interested, but because you don't have their phone number, you're forced to DM them, you're forced to email or some kind of other form of communication. You ever notice that you get ghosted a little bit more? Have you ever noticed that you don't get the response time isn't as fast? But when you're able to call somebody or you're able to text, you get the fastest responses. This is why you got to add that form to your Facebook form. That's why you have to add it, because that gives you the ability to do correct contact, and that's a lot better than having to go out and hand out business cards. That was like one of the things too I tried to do to get leads, right? Because it's somebody you could contact. So technically, if somebody gives you a business card, you have their name, email, and phone number, right? So that was one of my go-tos back in the day. I would go and try to say, "All right, I'm gonna go to these networking events, and I'm trying to hit up 1, 2 networking events a week, and I'm getting these business cards, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna help some people get some business," and I couldn't get myself to follow through. You ever done that? You ever been out like, "Yo, all right, cool, I'm going to these networking events. Okay, let me meet some people." You might go to some type of conference or a seminar, and then you getting business cards, but you don't call them. You ever had that? Everybody say, "Yeah, I'm gonna call you. Yeah, let's catch up next week. Yeah, we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk." And what happens when you get the business card? Toss it to the side, put it in your wallet, put it in your pocketbook, toss it in the shoebox, toss it in your drawer. And do you ever get a chance to really come around to those people? Not really. And even if you did, you don't even follow up, right? I know, right? It's just hard to keep up with it, right? So this is why you want to do it in a way where it comes directly to your phone. You run an ad, comes directly to your phone. Literally, you just usually just press a button, whoop, and just call them, right? So that's the idea. Now you're gonna get some people who they got other opinions on this, right? They'll say, "Oh no, it's good." If you still, especially if you're still trying to get your first clients, they'll say, "Oh no, just go ahead and just cold DM. I know, just go out and just meet people." And those ways is pretty slow, right? And as I just told you, the follow up game is just a little bit. It's just a little bit harder trying to give you business cards. So I like. So one of the things that you want to focus on is what my guy Dan Locke talked about. I had a conversation with Dan Locke, who makes over. He's in our industry. He makes over 100 million a year. And one of the things that he mentioned is that he said leads are the lifeblood of your business. Leads are the lifeblood of your business. So we got to be able to have the leads in order to be able to help people. Okay. So that is the second part of the appointment pipeline is leads. Now you got traffic coming. Now you're getting leads. So now we can look on a spreadsheet and we can see you have name, emails, and phone numbers. Okay. So what do you think the next thing is? Now that you actually got the leads, the next thing we're going to focus on is appointments, right? So boom. So now that you got the leads, you got to start booking some appointments, right? Now, here's the interesting thing about the appointments is that if you're not booking appointments, then you're not putting your business in the best position to win. To win, in order to get clients and make money, you have to get appointments. And it's because what that's going to do is that's going to put you in the best position to generate revenue, right? Like now, you might have been in a position where, like, you say, "Well, Coach T, I tried to book appointments before. I've been messaging people and I'm not getting any responses back." Well, listen, there's a best practice to do it, and there's a terrible way to do it, right? Like when during the times like when, especially during my or like early, I was not even my earliest, to be honest with you. I would say like my first 5 years. of me messaging people, it was kind of tough. Like I would get ghosted way more often. I remember would be reaching out to people, and especially on Facebook, you'll be seen on red. On Facebook they have it. You could be it's on red. Like man, they seeing my messages and they're not even responding. They ghosting me, and I realized that as I got help later on that I was just doing too much coaching in the comments or too much coaching in the DM. I was giving too much information away. I was giving them a false sense of confidence, thinking that they could just go out and just do it because I was just, and part of it was an insecurity thinking that I have to give them everything in order for them to see me as an expert. So that was a big challenge. I'm like, yo, let me just give them everything because the more information I give them, the more they're gonna think that I'm credible and they're gonna be interested to work with me. It's not really how it works, right? So I found it hard in order to really start booking those appointments until I really got a framework that helped us take that to the next level, right? So I had had a coaching client recently who he was mentioning, no, it wasn't a client, it was somebody who was looking to get help. So he was like, I'm not generating any money. He was like, man, I want to get these clients, man. I have an offer. And I said, okay. I said, all right, cool. I said, well, okay, so you have this offer. And how many clients do you have? He said, I got one. He said, but I'm trying to get more, man. Like it's just been very hard for me. So I said, okay. I said, how many appointments did you book last week? He said zero. He said zero. Okay. How about the week before that? Nobody. Okay, just so I'm sure. How about the week before that? He said, "No, man. I mean, it's just been slow, man. I can't, I haven't really been booking any appointments." I said, "What's going on?" He said, "Man, I just been doing other stuff and kind of content, helping the one guy that I got." And he was, he was talking about, he was complaining about not making money. But when I asked him if he had appointments, he wasn't booking with anybody. So it sounds funny, but if I asked you, how many people did you book on your calendar last week? What's the answer to that? So you got to have a strategy in order to actually generate the appointments because it is the appointments that gets us a step closer to somebody buying, right? You following me and you watching my training videos, I'm not teaching you low ticket $10 ebooks, $20 courses, right? I'm teaching you how to get high ticket clients for your coaching business. So in that case, if somebody's going to pay that type of money to work with you, the least they should be able to do is talk to their coach, right? At least they should be able to do, right? Well, how do they talk to you? They talk to you through booking an appointment on your calendar. When they do that, that gives you the ability to really understand who you're talking to, and that gives you the ability to um, you know, put people in a position where they can potentially get your help. But that's all going to come down to the appointments. So that's the idea. Now, I see some other gurus out here. They're talking about a phoneless selling, phoneless selling. Look, here's my take on that. Right, that these all they're trying to do is give you a marketing tactic to get you attracted. That's the new shiny thing. But the reality of the situation is it's harder to do it when you're not talking to somebody one on one. If I'm having a conversation with you one on one, right? But let's say you're having a conversation with me one on one, and I might have questions about your service. I might have questions about your program. It's much easier for you to answer my questions if I have it versus, if I'm doing phoneless selling and I'm on a stage. Guess what? I got these questions. I'm not going to the back of the room to buy if I still have questions. If you're on stage and you're not answering these questions or these objections or you're not breaking these false beliefs that I have, that's not easy. Same thing on a webinar, right? Like it's the same kind of thing. If it's 50 or 100 or 300 or 500 or 1,000 people in a webinar, and I have questions and you can't help me or address my concerns or questions directly, I'm not joining your program. I have too many questions, and a confused mind never buys. Confused mind never buys. So you want to put yourself in a position where you're able to book the appointments. Now, it was I was watching a Ty Lopez one of Ty Lopez's training videos, right? And he was talking about a a mentor that he had that he was afraid to contact these appointments, and the mentor said to him, and I never forget it. He said, if you're afraid of the phone, you'll always be broke. He said, if you're afraid of the phone, you'll always be broke. And it was in that moment that I said, I want to be broke. So listen, I'm going to do it. I said, I got to do it. I said, these people wanted my help. I got to do it. Because at that point, even as I was trying to figure out the appointments, I was also trying to get confidence enough to really start calling more people and, and actually just do it. Because you ever found yourself in a place where it's like, you want to help more people, but you're hesitant to. You're hesitant to make the conversation. You're hesitant to reach out. You're hesitant to call. You're hesitant to text, right? Because you can easily pick up the phone, call somebody that you think you can help, and book an appointment to offer your services, right? Or shoot them a text though, offer your services, right? Or send them an email to offer your services, but or send them a DM, right? But we get hesitant, but you get hesitant sometimes, so that'll slow you down. But when you put yourself in a position that like yo, I really got to help people and I want to be able to grow and I want to change the world and I'm not going backwards, then at that point you're going to be willing to take the action you need to take to win. So appointments is key in order for you to help more people. All right. And then the fourth step, now that you're booking appointments, how are you going to hit this revenue goal? You're going to do it, once you get appointments, then you're going to start getting clients and sales, right? Outlets, right? Clients and sales. Okay. Now, sales. Let's talk about, let's say we're talking about strategy calls. Whatever you call. A lot of people call it different things, right? But these are calls that you'll have with your ideal client. So that what that'll do is that will give you the ability to actually generate the sale. This is where the transaction is made. um you know but if you're nervous about sales, or if you're like, I don't want to be salesy, I don't, I'm a little afraid to offer my services. If you can't with a straight face tell somebody, here's the value I provide and here's what the investment is, how are you going to make the money? You're not going to make 10K a month not offering your services to people. And a lot of times we're so afraid to offer our services that we help people for free. You ever been doing that? You've been offering people the free things for years. You're helping them out here or there. I don't have the money, this, that. And you just find yourself just spending all your discretionary time helping people free. But at the same time, you're not making any sales. How are you going to reach your goal if you're not making any sales? You won't, right? So there's a strategy and a process that you want to be able to have that's going to put you in a position to actually make the sales. And when I started, I would just say anything on sales calls. I was just like, yo, pick up the phone. And it was like, yo, like I'm just, having a conversation just with my friend. Okay. Yeah. And I didn't have any formal sales process. I didn't have any scripts. And I was just on the phone, I was on the phone talking. And that can get frustrating after a while. Having all of these conversations, but it's like, man, I'm too afraid to offer it, or I don't have any no formalized process. But then wonder why I'm not making sales. You feel what I'm saying on that? So that's the idea. But over time, I started to figure out, okay, here's the things that work. I started learning, joining programs. There was one particular program that I joined. Spent a lot of money on it. It was I spent $15,000 on a sales coach in a sales coaching program, and it was the most that I've ever spent on a program before. But I said, it's going to be worth it for me to do this, because I said this is like a core skill that I'm gonna need in order to be able to succeed. So I hired this sales coach, and I remember him telling me like, okay, Terrell, what I need you to do is record your calls. And I never really had anybody who cared like that. Like, yo, record your calls. I want to listen to everything that you're saying. I'm gonna give you direct feedback. And I'm like, man, I'm like, yo, he's on it. That's pretty cool. Like, you ever found yourself like being part of programs sometime, but the person that is supposed to be helping you really hasn't taken the time out or showed any interest and care into actually looking at what you're doing? So that was one of the things like I pride myself about, our PCS program, is that like when our clients, when we meet, tell me what you're doing, tell me where you at, show me what's going on. I let my clients share their screens and everything, right? So I really appreciated that about it, because he would listen to my calls and then say, okay, you know what? You could have did the close a little bit better here. You could have overcome the objection like that. Your tonality, your voice. You was talking too long at this point. You didn't ask enough questions. So it was all of these things that allowed me to get better at the sales. And once I started doing that, boom, I started, cracking multiple six figures. So like that's the thing that that really helped me take my business to the next level, was really getting that. And and you're gonna have that voice that's in the back of your head that's like, oh my God, do they really care? Am I sounding salesy? I'm sounding too salesy. But you gotta understand that it's about helping people. Brian Tracy said, stop selling and start helping. Stop selling and start helping. You got to start helping people and stop thinking about it as sales. You're making sales, but you're not going to sell somebody. When I'm having a conversation with somebody who I could potentially help, I'm not thinking I'm going to sell this person. I'm thinking about how can I help this person? Because you helping somebody may not always be in a sale. Sometimes helping somebody means that they're not ready. Sometimes helping somebody may mean, how many people I've referred to other programs and I said it's not the right fit or this is not the right time, right? Because I'm truly trying to help. I'm not just trying to get a sale from everybody. I've been through my fair share of people coming in a program and taking advantage, and we're offering a refund and getting help for get coaching for months and then calling the bank up and refunding. All of that kind of craziness. This is what happens when you in business for this amount of time, right? For a decade plus. So but you live and you learn and you realize that you don't need to get everybody. You want to get the right people that you actually get results for, and you do that. The generating of revenue on the clients is not going to be an issue, but you can't allow that voice in your head to slow you down and make you feel like you shouldn't be talking to people, because this is why we get into it. Why do we get into coaching? To help people, to serve, to give. Like, this is why we do this stuff. All right. So this is once you follow all of these strategies, this is how you're going to reach your revenue goal. All right. So quick recap. One, you got to get traffic. How are you going to make money? You got to get traffic. Find a reliable traffic source. We like using paid advertising. Specifically, we like Facebook, we like Instagram, but depending on when you're watching this video, you need to have a traffic source. So, if those platforms are still around, great. If they're not, at the end of the day, this is going to stand the test of time. Like this, I made this process like this for a reason. This will stand the test of time. So you have to have a reliable traffic source. Number two, you want to have leads. Just because you got attention doesn't mean you can contact them. So you got to be able to contact those leads. So you want to be able to get link phone name, emails, phone numbers, then appointments. If you're doing this right, you're going to be contacting these people and you're going to be booking appointments with them. Okay, so that might mean, you might get, let's just say, let's say, so let's give a practical example. So let's say, you're getting traffic, and let's say you got 100 leads this month, right? Out of 100 leads, you might book 40 appointments. Everybody's not going to answer, whatever, right? Some people might not give right information. Just being real, like, it happens. So then you book 40 appointments. Out of those 40 appointments, you might get 10%. So let's just say out of 40, you get 10% of them to say yes. You have a 10% closing ratio. How many clients is that? That's four. What is that? That's four, right? That's four clients. Out of those four clients, you might be charging $2,500. Guess what you just got? A $10,000 month. You just made a $10,000 month, right? All you do is get traffic, generate the leads, book the appointments. Out of those appointments, you got 10% to buy at a $2,500 price point. You got four clients out of 2,500, and you make 10K. And that is how you reach your revenue goal. All right. You input whatever number makes sense to you, right? If you want to make 50K a month, put it in. You want to make 100K a month, put in the numbers. But this is the process, and this is what we call the appointment pipeline. So hope you like the video today. If you did, go ahead and give this a thumbs up. Go ahead and comment what was your biggest takeaway, and subscribe to the channel. All right. So until I see you next time, slow motion is better than no motion. See you in the next video.